started. Palak, welcome to this very special edition of Founders and Empanadas. This is our very first time trying the webinar format out, where we're recording this live, and no better person to bring this on than you. You've been an incredible partner to NeoWork over the past 2 years. Had a wonderful time catching up with you in the Bay Area earlier in the year, and thank you so much for taking the time to come on.
Absolutely. No, it's absolutely been our pleasure to work with you guys and to work with you. Definitely lots of passion and positive approach to innovation. So it's been a fantastic journey working with you guys too.
All right, so let's get in the empanadas. Cheers.
Let's do it. Okay. Cheers.
Mm, how's the spinach and cheese?
Delicious. Love the savory ones.
Amazing. So, why empanadas? Well, with Luna, we actually have teammates from both Colombia and the Philippines
Mm.
at NeoWork that are handling multiple different use cases from doing medical coding to credentialing to reviewing faxes to support. So, wide gamut of roles. But the thing that bridges us together is our love for tasty pastries in the form of empanadas. And this comes from the common origin of Spain. And I understand that there is a similar empanada-esque pastry in India. Would love to learn more about that.
Oh, of course. I mean, I think the other good thing about Neo work and all the fun that you all have in Philippines and Colombia is all the beaches. I love when you send all the team events and the collaboration that you do with your teams on beaches, and I'm like, that's fantastic, Joshua. I'm sure the team loves working with Neo work. But on empanadas, I was telling you about what happens in the Indian version of it. It's called ghugra. And it's basically same like a dough, and then you have savory and sweet stuffings, and then it's a family activity where everybody sits down and hand rolls them, and then either fries them or bakes them. So I was like, oh my gosh, yes, what better way? There's so much alignment and resemblance in traditions and cultures here.
What's your go-to gugra? Do you prefer baked,
Mm.
fried?
I love the baked ones, especially now that India also has ovens and air fryers and all of that. But the traditional ones are the fried ones, and they're super delicious. You can't match those. But the Indian ones actually have a stuffing that is, of course, super complex with a lot of spices, but it has a base of lentils and coconut and lots of great tropical and protein rich inside stuffings. So they're really cool for vegetarians too.
I know what I'm going to be ordering later tonight.
Oh,
Love
fantastic. I
baked.
haven't actually found a restaurant that sells them. So if you are, you're in
Okay.
luck.
Okay. Amazing, Palak. Well, thank you again for coming on. And today's webinar is going to be a masterclass on all things scaling a health tech marketplace. And I know a lot of our attendees and the ones getting this recording will be interested in learning from your experience. But to kick things off, I'd love to learn more about the origin story and how you went from being a physical therapist at Stanford to founding Luna.
Absolutely. Love reminding myself about the story every now and then. It's now been 7 years. Luna just celebrated its seventh birthday, and we're
Congrats.
super, super excited about it. It starts with the founder's personal experiences, and our CEO, Chris Duggan, started with understanding how come there doesn't exist like a great service that can come home and deliver patient care in an exceptional fashion. So that's where the journey started. And then it was bringing the like-minded team together to actually achieve this vision and mission. So I met our CEO, and based on my experiences, my time at Stanford, clinical excellence was absolutely one of the most important things I learned from my time at Stanford, being evidence based. How do you perform? And the culture at Stanford is such a positive environment of learning and giving everybody an opportunity to shine. And I was in the process of starting my own practice. And that's when I met our CEO, and He said, Pollock, are you sure you want to do a clinic that has maybe 20 physical therapists versus come see our 50,000 physical therapists that we would like to have on the Luna platform at one time? And that was absolutely a vision mission that I couldn't have stayed away from too long. And the other resonance there is in India, outpatient PT in the home is a very normal practice. So there is so much value I've seen throughout my journey with family and friends of having efficient care and effective care happen even in the home. So the complexities of healthcare should not slow us down, is how I think about it. So when that blank opportunity and a blank canvas was available, that really, really made me excited about what we
Amazing.
can achieve on the Luna team.
And it's a very compelling service. I remember years ago, I broke my foot doing martial arts, and having to find someone that would drive me and me hobbling over to the physical therapist office was a major pain point on my end. So having at home is a huge gap in the market that you guys are filling.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of this, Joshua, because I feel it's not about, I think the best thing that Luna has done is we're not focused on doing everything. We're really trying to narrow down and solve for that harder problem of delivering in-person care in the home and doing it well. So that has been our strategy from the get-go. And that's what leads us to partner with organizations that do their part really, really well. So if you're a health system, patients trust you. You have so much, so many patients coming to your hospitals for care, but they're not able to come there 2 times a week or 3 times a week. So it really increases the geographical expansion of the services that you can provide. Surgeons and physicians really want great quality care. So this allows them to expand and standardize that experience. So I think it's really about collaboration and truly delivering on this integrated network of providers versus one provider doing it all. So that I think that's been really important to us is to build that network, and secondly to kind of do what we do really, really well.
And very smart to niche down. I've seen a lot of marketplace models that will too quickly expand into too many different service offerings. Very smart to be well known for as the physical therapist go-to marketplace.
Sure thing.
Um, and I'm curious about just from your time practicing as a physical therapist and your clinical experience, how did that shape some of the product decisions at Luna? Like, were there any specific pain points or inefficiencies that you experienced firsthand that became foundational to the Luna platform?
Absolutely. I mean, I think there was a very interesting question posed to me in like of like a VC meeting at one point, that what are my thoughts about having a clinician as the founder versus having a non-clinician as a founder? And I feel what was really awesome and exciting for me was this amazing team that is the co-founding team, because I feel in order to innovate, you really need to challenge the status quo or challenge the way things have already been done. And we don't stop that. Even today, we're addressing a question that's, done a certain way for years and years, and nobody in healthcare would think, can you really do this? But being able to do that and staying at the forefront of that's really, really important. And one of those things I believe that we really honed down on, Joshua, was that we didn't want it to be difficult for the physical therapist to deliver high quality care. So when we're thinking about technology, we're always thinking about it's not just patient centered care. It is about the clinicians, it is about the partners, it is about the physicians, and how does this technology really enable that platform that really makes it easy for everyone with the same end goal of course, great outcomes and the right kind of care delivery for our patients. So I think that really staying at the forefront has been important, not doing it just because the way the things are done, and really making sure the end users find it super easy to, deliver the effective ways that we want to achieve.
Amazing. Are there any stories you can share of therapists on your platform that have been able to reinvent their careers or just great success stories that they've gotten from Luna's platform?
Amazing, all the time, all the time. And they're very empowering stories, actually, Joshua. And I'll start with one that was a personal realization. This is literally week one or week two into Luna's time, and I'm picking and dropping my children. And I was actually answering some game-changing decisions via Slack when I'm waiting in the parking lot. And I'm like, this is really amazing that I can actually drive value even when I'm not sitting at my desk or in a meeting. So really allowing that flexibility for physical therapists is really important because we have a very rigid schedule as clinicians, and being able to empower ourselves to be flexible, be out in the field, to be able to manage our schedules was really game changing. And I think it has resonated very, very well with the PT community and the clinician community. So I think that's awesome. And then I can think of another very simple story. But when we think about what's on the Luna app, right? Coming from Stanford, my approach was I want everything. The therapist should be able to see all of the things that help them make decisions. And that was challenged by saying, how about we really show them what's the ideal behavior versus actually showing them everything and having them make individual decisions all the time. And that's where this concept of, human-centered approach and the design concepts really started making so much sense and value, that I think it was pretty important a realization for a clinician turned like co-founding opportunity that I have here. I think it was really about understanding the strengths of each of these components that put a platform together.
Absolutely. Amazing, Palak. And so a lot of our listeners that work at marketplaces, they struggle with the chicken and the egg dilemma. How do you balance the supply and demand? And I'd love it if you could just walk us through, especially the early days at Luna, how you made those earliest decisions around onboarding more therapists versus more patients, and any critical insights or tactics that you discovered that helped along the way.
Absolutely. I mean, this is stuff that I'm going to speak on behalf of the fantastic team I have, because there's a lot that goes into marketplace balance, and our chief operating officer, our CEO, our, marketing teams, everybody, our sales teams. That's how marketplace happens. So this is one that I'm going to speak on their behalf, but it's so important to understand your strategy, which areas you want to go in. So Luna's focus is, because we're really driving care in the home, our focus was to try and identify the presence. So now Luna is in 28 states, 55 metro markets, really identifying these metro markets. Where are we going to be able to drive reliable services for our patients was one of the most important questions for us. And today we have about 3,000 physical therapists in these 28 states. So it's about a lot of PTs giving us a little bit of time that really allows us to deliver services to our patients, that are spread around like 6:30 in the morning to 9:30 at night. We have a therapist that covers those varied time slots, and that's what we need, is to drive reliability in our services. But thinking about early days, it's always something that, evolves over time. And that's why it's not so easy to do, is perfecting it over these 7 years that we've had. And the way I would think about it is our partnerships, and Luna will makes itself available directly to patients. So, you can come directly to Luna and receive care from us. You can come from a physician, you can come from our partnerships. So it's really about having ability to drive access to care. And when we identify we have a great presence in a particular market, our therapist acquisition team goes and drives more coverage from our physical therapists. And with PTs, because this is a flexible platform, our therapists can provide anywhere between 4 visits to 10 visits a week or 20 visits a week. So it's about letting PTs choose how much and how little they want to contribute. And this is pretty remarkable, Joshua. I mean, a therapist that does 10 visits a week with Luna can earn another $30,000 in annual income. And those kind of opportunities never existed for us as clinicians. It was like, show up at 7 in the morning, your first patient at 7, you leave at 5 or 6 in the evening. It's pretty tough. So in my opinion, just having options allows you to be in charge of your professional journey. Not having options and having a rigid environment makes it really hard to survive and sustain. And so, coming back to the marketplace balance, there's an ongoing understanding of how the supply and demand is, and then ensuring that we're having enough coverage in specific metro markets and specific micro markets is really, really important and an ongoing process. There's no like one formula that fits everybody.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I found too with a lot of the marketplace partners we work with. You just have to crab walk it, scaling both sides up gradually.
I mean, and if you think about it, the World Health Organization has basically really shared that physical therapy is underutilized, right? And in this area, like if you actually think about other marketplaces, you're usually more demand constrained versus supply constrained. Physical therapy is more supply constrained. There's always, or healthcare rather, is a supply constrained profession because there's only 300,000 physical therapists out there, and we have so many patients. Every patient you can imagine in musculoskeletal world or neuro world is going to benefit from physical therapy. So how do we really bring that at the forefront is important, and have them achieve this great excellent care in wherever they are. How do we meet the patients where they are is really what excites us.
Yeah. How do you see the future of work for physical therapists in the US? Do you foresee that role increasing over time, or is it going to be a challenge in coming years to source even more therapists? What's your outlook?
I mean, I think our American Physical Therapy Association is doing a fantastic job on driving clarity. The one of the meetings I attended last year talked about the 7-year vision of a student who's in high school today. What are they going to experience when they graduate out of physical therapy school in 7 years? And I think it's really nice to see the number of physical therapists graduating is increasing. The profession is in a very strong position. However, the biggest challenges are loans, the debt increase. It's really, really difficult to sustain business practices along with reimbursement cuts. So advocacy becomes very important. So balancing that on that front of professional growth at the same time, the reducing the administrative burden and ensuring that we're leveraging technology to make it less burdensome, maybe for clinicians or patients, or for business organizations, it becomes extremely important today in order to see that brighter future. So adopting and not being hesitant of adopting it, but doing it with the right practices definitely becomes important. So I see the potential of physical therapy growth really, really high because value-based care is becoming very important. And while technology is there to give you this initial forefront of information, you're really going to continue to need the in-person component to understand your specific needs of rehab and recovery. So I feel very strongly about where physical therapy is headed. In fact, our journey in physical therapy has gone from being clinicians who actually deliver modalities like heat packs and ice packs and ultrasound machines to then becoming movement scientists or movement specialists to actually achieving doctorate in physical therapy. And now we're advocating to be physical therapists as primary care practitioners, which I think is really, really empowering and allows us to work at the top of our license. So there's only going to be more, Joshua.
I had no idea that there was that career path trajectory for physical therapists. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And one thing I really appreciate about Luna is the focus on retention of therapists already on the platform and just excellence of the experience. And I'm curious, just as Luna has scaled, what are some of the levers that you've been able to pull to just ensure that quality continues as the company scales?
100%. And that's such a key questions. And I would say that having that part be a part of our vision and mission is one of the most important things. Like from the get-go, the most important thing was that our goal was to reimagine physical therapy experience. And doing that by ensuring that we're reimagining this experience for patients, therapists, and our partners. So, therapists are really, really important to how our experience is built. We have lots of great support teams, therapist success, therapist enablement, our clinical operations. A lot of our focus is on ensuring there's the right kind of support, right kind of design, right kind of product that supports a clinician. So, I would definitely think that along with the corporate support, it's really, really exciting to ensure that therapists have this flexibility, independence, high earning potential, and find this community to be a meaningful value add for their professional path.
I love that what you just said about sense of community. We really try to recreate that with our Neo work team as well. Even though they're doing different functions or with different accounts, they can always,
Yeah.
talk with their peers internally. But yeah, what does that look like at Luna? Are there like events that you put together, or webinars, or trainings? How does that community
Yeah,
work?
all of it, all of it. So the most exciting part is, our therapist acquisition team is full of clinicians who have been clinic directors in the past, and they understand the challenges of being a physical therapist and being in the world of needing growth and needing flexibility, but at the same time having a platform that supports great valued care, which is exceptional and is focused on great outcomes. So the best thing that happens is when you have these small events in all of these local communities. Our therapist acquisition team does a great job hosting events and bringing PTs in the community together. But at the same time, webinars happen all the time. We have something called as the Luna Edge series, and unfortunately, there are no empanadas or gugras on those Edge series. But it really is about thinking and bridging the gap between how leadership thinks versus how do we bring cutting edge information and educational content to our clinicians. So a few that we're doing, like rehab, radiology in rehab is our very closest one coming up, and it's being done by Dr. Lance Mabry, who is a professor. And what's really important about that is those are things we're not thinking yet, but we got to do what we want to happen in like 2 years. We got to start doing something about it today, and that's what really excites me, is to bring those kind of concepts, so we're not just focusing on one visit at a time, but really thinking about how do we want to enhance our practice over a long period of time. So I'm hopeful that those events really helps demonstrate where we want each of our therapists to grow and progress in their profession while being on the platform, versus just having a continuing education course. So it's really exciting and a passion project for me. And yeah, I think it really brings our community together.
Love that. And on top of just professional development and community, another important part is benefits and stability. So for other marketplace startups, what are your recommendations for thinking through a W-2 setup versus 1099 setup?
Absolutely. I think it's, again, the problem that you're trying to solve for, right? I think the problems we were trying to solve for was flexibility and independence, because we have a lot of controlling work environments.
Yeah.
So I think it's, as long as you stay focused on the vision, I think that's the most important thing. And considering this is supplemental income, we have a lot of great support for our physical therapists where they can achieve supplemental benefits, or they can get access to the right resources in the most cost efficient fashion. So it's more about focusing on the problem you're trying to solve and then identifying the best tools that might help you in that journey. For example, like with 1099 or part time work, you're not sometimes aware about like the tax benefits and things of that sort. So our focus is to educate. And as I mentioned earlier, like flexibility, independence, and a high earning potential is really important to physical therapy, but at the same time, doing it in a fashion that allows them to make a choice is so important. Like, I can't emphasize that enough, which is PTs didn't really have a choice before, and now they do. And I think that's really empowering.
Well, yeah, in my early days working at Bird, this was back in 2018, but I love the stories of the chargers where there's literally no barrier to entry. Anyone can sign up and earn a couple additional income for a couple hours of work after after their typical 9 to 5, and just that, yeah, that flexibility of, hey, I want to work weekends, but sometimes not. That's very compelling.
Absolutely. But and to that point, your question on quality and how do we maintain quality
Mhm.
with that, right? I think being data informed, being really able to track performance, being able to support PTs when we see things go in the red, yellows, and the greens. I think it's really helpful when you have created a supportive environment versus like an oversight environment. So I think that's a very important thing that we think about on the clinical team, especially when we're thinking about physical therapists, that, hey, this is in order to make you aware about your contributions, so you can decide if you still want to stay in the reds on some of these things. And most often, if not, therapists want to do the best that they can. They, in fact, go above and beyond for their patients. It's more about having the right tools made available to them so they can make those decisions better and faster and more effectively. So we really see the benefit of having the right kind of data collection, and actually, if we have the data, share it with the therapist so they can make their individual decisions equally effectively as compared to someone having to tell them, let's do it this way, or you're in the red, you should do this differently. So there's a very different approach, I think, when you are informed and you have access to information. And we're seeing that be very effective at Luna. So yeah, I think data and quality is really, really core. And Luna has all most of its technology built in house, which is one of its biggest strengths. It keeps all these systems really integrated, and that allows you to make reliable decisions at scale. And I would think if I would not have picked up some of the data training in the beginning of my journey with Luna, I don't know how I would make some decisions, you know. So I think one really funny thing I read at the co-working space when in the early days of Luna was, we believe in God, but everybody else bring data. So it's kind of stuck to me because that's like those fundamental questions that really help in prioritizing or understanding the impact.
And that's your competitive advantage versus the traditional therapy centers like what you were planning to build before talking with Chris.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like we've said this oftentimes where a feature at Luna is a company externally. Like
So,
we found organizations do something that is a feature at Luna. So I think it's pretty incredible. There's the breadth and the complexity that Luna's technology has built, thanks to our amazing CTO, of course, and the models that he has built. But it's pretty incredible that everybody weighs and listens and tries to understand and keep this human focused and human centered design concept at the forefront.
absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to dive deeper into the tech, but I think we need a little empanada intermission first.
Yeah.
How's your spinach and cheese?
It's looking great. It's looking good. Thanks for reminding me. I don't want it to get too cold.
Mine's already getting cold.
I know. Well, I grabbed my bite, Joshua. It'd be really great to hear about, what excites neo work folks to work with Luna and what are their experiences. Would love to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a lot of teammates that have previously worked in the healthcare space. We like to recruit actually a lot of former nurses over at NeoWork. There's a huge market of talent in the Philippines.
Hmm.
And we found that the most compelling part of working with Luna is how deeply engrossed they become into the operations of Luna. Your team has done a wonderful job of really seeing Neo workers as an extension of their internal team, and no different from an internal employee. And just that level of partnership of us being able to give feedback directly to you and you giving feedback directly to us as more of a two-way partnership instead of the more traditional kind of top-down client vendor relationship that other BPOs tend to have. That's been really compelling for us and our team.
That's great. Yes, we absolutely see the team as an extension of our team here. So it's been wonderful.
Amazing. And I think what really also excites me about Luna is and working with you is just the appetite for AI. Um, it's rare to find a company that is so startup-y and embracing new ways of doing things while also having such a large volume and the amount of just transactions and exposure that our AI workflows can have is really compelling. So that blend is really has become perfect for us to do our implementations and trying to, as we try to disrupt our own service of instead of just humans having humans supervising AI agents. You all have been an incredible partner for us to build out these automations.
That's great to hear. And I do agree. I feel like it's the culture at Luna, which is so fast moving. It feels like a startup culture even at, 7 years of our journey, because
Yeah.
fast moving, very dynamic, quick decision making. trying to be 1% better every day absolutely continue to be the key values at Luna. And lots of focus on continuing to be at the forefront is so important. So it's cool.
And that's one of NeoWorks core values too. Grow 1% each day. So you got that perfect alignment there too.
Great, great to hear.
So yeah, I'd love to dive deeper into the tech because Luna works in such a regulated and paperwork heavy space with a lot of faxes still and just the infrastructure being built on dinosaur systems. I'd love to just learn a little bit more about how you architected and the team, some of the workflows to handle this complex compliance and credentialing, while still remaining, digital first and automating a lot of those processes.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not a technical person, so the best way I can think about it is if anybody has been doing the same job and is very repeatable, you can document it in an SOP. We got to feed that and automate that. So it's less about actually taking away work that we want decision making to be based on versus we want more consistency, reliability, better data that will allow us to make better decisions is basically my approach on our team. But at the same time, improving access, making it convenient, making it quick, reducing errors, all of those are really important aspects that AI brings to the table. So I would say that that's a simple way if a 15-year-old has to understand it. It's literally like we're gone from the days of copy pasting things here and there. We're gone from the days of really trying to review a checklist and making decisions. Those are the things where I really think that it allows us to leverage our time in the best ability and at our best capabilities. So I think that's been the focus. And especially in regulated worlds, the good thing about it is the rules are very clear. Like there's no black and white. I mean, there's no gray areas. There's very good ways of saying if and then statements. And that's, I think, how I think as a non-technical person. If I can write a if then statement, then I think the automation can be quite reliable. But when it actually needs to have understanding of how a lot of different compounding factors feed into that decision, those are really areas where we need to train a model or we need to identify if the output's reliable and things of that sort. So really just being honest and holding on to the ethical ground of what we are doing and making sure that those compliance guidelines are being followed. It's less about decision making but improving our ability to make better decisions. Those kind of approaches and mindsets are the focus for us on our team. And I think adopting it to really understand the strength so we can deliver the best care is, not doing it. I don't know if that's a great decision because then you're not bringing the best available to our patients.
Makes sense, and you're spot on. It's we see it the same way when we're training our AI models. It's there's a SOP that we're training humans on to do. It's the exact same approach that we can take with our AI models, and it's just like training a new hire and the if-then statements and some nuance that comes with some decision making along the way, but
Yeah,
very transferable. Um,
absolutely. And I think on that note, I think when you have reliable, consistent, and fast decision making that can be done. It's about highlighting things that are falling above and below a threshold that you're looking for. So it allows you to look at outliers quicker, it allows you to address gaps and challenges faster. So again, I feel like, it's allowing automation so that we can do a better job at compliance, regulatory, and quality related items.
Absolutely. Great. And Palak, I'm curious. I'd love to hear a little bit more about how Luna went through COVID 2020 with the in-person care and what pivots you had to make along the way. I imagine that was a very challenging moment for Luna. So yeah, walk me through how that year went.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's so amazing that, we've had so many years just go by and we're out of the COVID zone, and the ability for humans and the environment to adapt is just incredible. But the good news is Luna went live and we launched in 2018, and COVID hit around end of 2019, 2020. we actually really saw the value of in-person care in the home shine during COVID because it was the safest place to have patients receive care when things were shut down and exposure was really important. Having care in the home was extremely important, and being able to adapt to that. And we added infection control supplies to our physical therapy kits immediately, and we were already set up for in-person care in the home. So honestly, Joshua, I think we really saw gradual growth even during the COVID times and really felt the value of what we were doing because we hear wonderful things from patients like your Luna is a miracle at the doorstep. And, I think that really is what keeps us going every single day. So, however, there definitely were challenges because patient visits to physicians were also reducing, the referrals to physical therapy were reducing. We had initiated telehealth, but the patients continued to value in person care. So we continued to stay at Luna focused on in person care and continuing to perfect that. But since then, we've hit 1 million visits sometime last year. We're now approximating our 2 millionth visit very soon on the platform. And we've continued to do that with only physical therapists on the platform. So, yeah, there's so much more that's ahead. And I feel that's another beautiful part, which is from COVID to now. It's a privilege if you have the opportunity to say no to certain things, right? Like, no, this is not what we are going to do. This is where we're going to stay focused, and that has really helped us along the way.
Well, congratulations on the growth. And yeah, I'm just trying to think through how even telehealth for physical therapy would work. Probably not very compelling. So I'm glad you're able to figure out in person still during COVID.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there is a lot of value for telehealth. There is a value for exercise prescriptions. There is a value for digital health. But I think that we have seen that that's not the only solution that can work. And we really see the benefits of in person care when done right. The effectiveness can be very good. So, again, I think there's a value for all the service providers. And how do we create that integrated network so the patient can receive the care that they really need versus not having that choice is where I really feel passionate about what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, I officially just finished Empanada 1. Started
Well, mine
Empanada 2.
was equal to three big empanadas, so it's good. It's good. I think I'm still working on mine.
We're gonna keep this webinar going for 5 hours until you finish. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm sure it's fun when it's Joshua on the other end.
Awesome. So, Palak, I'd love to just take a step back and talk about you and your journey. Going from practicing as a physical therapist to now being co-founder of a tech company that, with a ton of employees across the country. I'm just curious, how did your leadership style evolve as you scaled Luna from the scrappy startup days? And also, are there any leadership practices or frameworks from in the clinical world that translated well, or maybe didn't translate well to a startup environment?
Oh my gosh. I mean, very loaded question. There's something I'm learning every day, even today. And that's what keeps it exciting, I would think. But you're right. I think I've had a very non-traditional path to leadership. It's something that I often highlight because I really think that it's about believing in yourself and not being fearful of taking on responsibilities that you've not done before. So if that's what you want to achieve and you kind of believe in that ability of yours, I think it's more about being open and being available and being able to take on challenges and being okay to fail. And so I would say that the biggest thing that has been a learning is that you're only going to grow as much as you actually fall or you make mistakes. So normalizing mistakes was a very difficult thing for me along my path because I think my approach has always been more to be more on the perfection side and then really understanding. And then my time at Stanford, and then you really just want the best all the time. So I feel like really being able to come to terms with understanding prioritization, what is really important and must have versus nice to have, like how come I don't have it all was a tough learning, to be very honest. So I think that's a very simple, applicable thing that I felt, and it was a self reflection that you can't have it every time the way it needs to be. So, and you know, you want to focus on completion of work versus really having perfect work before you go live. So, I think some of those were just personal journey learnings, but absolutely, like data was important. And then above everything else was teamwork. I think being a team leader and managing teams was never something I'd done. So I really appreciate and thank the team I have for being a part of my leadership journey and helping me grow with them. I think was really, really important. So I would say those are like, I think the most important things. I mean, managing people is completely different than being an independent contributor leader. And I think understanding that as well was a part of my journey. So I think was really different. But what really helped me along the way was understanding where is the impact I want to drive and what do I need in order to be able to drive that impact. If it is people management, if it is problem solving, if it is learning some data, bring it on. So I think you can have a simple approach and it constantly evolves and adapts. So I don't know if I can label my leadership journey or my leadership style to any one kind of leadership trait. But it is a constant evolving learning journey with lots of mistakes along the way and appreciation for all the support, trust, confidence people have in you. It almost makes me feel responsible for delivering because you're in a position and you have the ability. And if you don't deliver, that feels bad on my part. So I think feeling that as a responsibility is actually really something that keeps me going.
Yeah, and I'd love to dive deeper. Are there any stories of failure or expensive lessons learned along the way that you can share with the audience?
Failure. Okay, let's think about this one. I think it's actually about some stories that are saving you from failure. So one thing that you know when we think about the direction in which Luna wants to go, I think the telehealth and in-person care was a really important decision that Luna made in the early days, where everybody was jumping on, we have to do telehealth, we have to do telehealth. And Luna decided to stay focused on in-person. I think that was a really big decision at that time because it could derail your thought process and the direction of growth. If you now start diverting your technology and engineering focus for problem solving and creating a telehealth platform along with that in-person platform. I think that was a very um, important decision, in my opinion, at that time. And if done differently, I think we could have some dilution in the focus and the success we've had.
Absolutely. Niche down. Niche is the way to go. Great. So, Palak, this is a question that I like to ask all of my guests to put you in the hot seat. What is one strongly held belief that you have that you think 90% of other founders would disagree with?
Oh my goodness, loaded. Um, Something I believe that other founders would disagree with.
Mhm.
Hmm. Um, That would be hard if others don't agree with me on this one. So, but being in healthcare, I feel a very, very important thought that I think is sometimes conflicting is that human decisions or how it impacts humans and people around you is a lot more important than business decisions. And there's always a very, very important decision making point and a voice at the table in order to make sure there is a balancing act on that. So, being a healthcare expert, I really think that's the voice that's important to consider. And I think we've done that really, really well at every step of the way.
Incredible. And Palak, I'd also love to just hear a little bit more about your methodology of work, and maybe a better question would be just what are some traits that you found recurring in the most successful people that you know in your network?
Great question. I think communication. I think verbal, written communication are two traits. I feel it's very difficult as a leader to be able to communicate complex concepts into being able to articulate that and position that in a way to drive outcomes. And I think that's a Absolutely incredible and important trait, and one that I have seen successful people have. And I think it's extremely important to not really feel like being an expert for everything is important, but as long as you can communicate the situation and articulate the problem statement well, I think you've solved a problem halfway there.
I heavily agree. And Palak, where can people find you and find more about Luna online?
You can learn a lot about Luna at www.getluna.com, or as I mentioned, across the country in the US in 28 states, and information for everybody is on there. It's really exciting. We have a clinical method that we recently spoke more about on why Luna, what Luna does is different than what a lot of other physical therapy providers do. So I'd encourage everyone to go look at that. And then I'm available on LinkedIn. You're welcome to reach out. I'd love to be connected with like-minded leaders.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I'd love for the final minutes to open the floor for our guests for any questions they might have for Palak. So feel free to use the chat. And I realized that I've given quite a few people the link that are logged in. So we've got a whole inception of like eight Joshua Edelmans. But if anyone has any questions, we'd love to dive this deep. Okay, here's one from Liz. So which business leaders do you admire and follow?
Wow. I am quite inspired by Narendra Modi, who is the Prime Minister of India. He has been a fantastic leader. I just love the way he's brought the country together. And I would also think that, it really inspires you to take bold action. And I personally think that he's been a guiding force on his principles of merging Indian cultural leadership and cultural practices with his leadership style. I forget the name of the podcaster, but he has this fantastic 3 hour interview online. I should probably find it and share it with you guys. But it talks a lot about Indian cultural practices and how it actually empowers him in his leadership style. And I do find a lot of resemblance and resonance, and I do follow him quite a bit.
Taking India to space. That was huge. Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
What
Any other
about you,
questions?
Joshua? Do you have a leader you follow or admire?
That's a great question as well. And probably my go-to would actually be Bezos. I know some people aren't a huge fan of him, but what I really admire about his leadership style is how focused on values he is. If you talk to an Amazon employee, just even just sitting in on their company meetings, I've got the honor of being able to listen in on a couple of them, and it's
Okay.
incredible how their teams, even at a huge scale, they will make decisions based off of, okay, with this value, we need to be customer obsessed. And everyone in the room just their ears perk up, and that's their emotion to, okay, even if it's a project they want to do, I'm gonna do it because they told them the value. And I've tried to recreate that at Neo Work where, our values aren't just kind of BS that's on the wall that, we talk about like onboarding, but that's it, but really incentivize all of our teammates to follow our values and having that part of performance reviews and financial incentives, and that's kind of really
Yeah.
core to how we run as a company.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree. I feel like along the journey, I've heard about the different approaches. For example, a leader who was at Amazon and then a leader at I think Kaiser. And I kind of learned about the principles of the daily status updates versus the monthly decks and the whole organized method of driving visibility and awareness amongst the layers of leadership, I think is pretty incredible because that's how decision making slows down along the way. So developing frameworks, identifying ways to scale. I think Amazon and has some really cool frameworks that are
Yeah.
worth adopting.
They for their internal meetings, they have to write press releases all their attendees will read through. Like if we launch this product, here's the press release of it. And I love that. Just kind of really being focused on the outcome, the why behind the product, and like what the an impact will be even before it's iterated and thought through.
Yeah, cool, cool, cool. I
Mhm.
agree.
All right. Any other questions, team, that we have for Palak? I got one more for you. What has been the most impactful book, fiction or nonfiction, that you've ever read?
Actually, I'm staring right one at it. It's called Scaling People. It's from Claire Hughes, and she was a very, impressive leader at Stripe and talks exactly about operational workflows. So it's top of mind. But the other one I can think about is storytelling by data, and that's something that I read in my early journey about data and really understanding and adopting storytelling versus just numbers. And I think I really liked that book and it drove how I focused on my data skills, but still keeping the human component attached to it.
Amazing. All right, well, one of my doppelgangers, one of the Joshuas that used my link, asked, what was the most challenging part of your professional growth? How did you embrace that challenge and turn it into a learning experience? Jose.
I think, uh, going from something you're really good at to putting yourself in challenging environments was, I think, a very, very important and a difficult thing because it started with not knowing how to start a Zoom meeting because I never did Zooms with my patients. So it's something as simple as that. But I think over time, being able to get comfortable with being able to bring your vision and your thoughts into a more effective communication method, I think was what was really important to be able to evolve and something that you continue to grow into. But lots, as I was mentioning earlier, it's about being able to make mistakes and being in those uncomfortable places. And if you can keep yourself in those uncomfortable spaces, it means you're growing and you're trying to do something and push boundaries and innovate. So I would say that's been the hardest and something I've embraced.
Amazing. And then we also have Edwin asking, what is the future of AI and generative AI for healthcare that we should be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, I think in my perspective, I think the one that I stand really, really close to is how do we enable AI and Gen AI to help make better decisions by clinicians versus making decisions for the clinicians. So I think that's the most important thing where I feel there is value and it's ripe because those are problems the healthcare industry has faced for the longest time: shortage of health staff, administrative burden, reduced reimbursement. So let's take that and solve for that before we're just already automating and focusing on treatment solutions that are recommended by AI or Gen AI, because there is a human component and the difference of one patient to another that I believe we're not ready to just overlook just yet.
Exactly. How do we augment our existing therapists instead of replacing them?
Absolutely.
Amazing. Well, Palak, thank you so much for grabbing some empanadas with me and on this Friday afternoon. I think we got some really great actionable tips that we can turn into clips and short form content. So thank you so much and cheers again.
Cheers, cheers. Thanks for having me, Joshua. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the summer and, really drives their lives 1% better every day.
Amazing. Have a great weekend. Take care,
You too.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.